We're on, Peter.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Smiths Falls Equity for All committee meeting on September 11th. I'm your chair today, Councillor Peter McKenna. Mayor Panko sends his regrets. We'll start with our land acknowledgement. As you know, on September 11th, we acknowledged this sacred land on which Smiths Falls is now located has been the site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in making the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smiths Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. So I have a motion that the September 11th Smiths Falls Equity for All committee meeting agenda be approved as circulated. Moved by Linda and seconded by Ellie. Any changes to that agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And again, just another motion that the minutes August 14th Smiths Falls Equity for All committee meeting be approved as circulated. And I'll ask again for a vote by Kate and seconded by Linda. Anybody see anything in those minutes that they would like to draw our attention to? Errors, omissions, seeing none. All in favor of those minutes? Thank you. That's carried. We've approved it. If anyone has any disclosure monetary interest, it'd be good to do that right now or at any point throughout the meeting. And we're delighted to have Joanna Mangello, close, Manager of Rental Compliance, Licensing and Bylaw Services, as part of our delegation. This is a follow-up. In August, we had a couple of other municipalities talk to us about the renovation bylaws, for lack of a better word. And we are delighted. I think Hamilton's been leading the way on this, one of the leaders in the province, if not the country. And we were looking forward to hearing from you, Joanna, and hearing about your experience and the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think there's probably very few towns the size of ours, 10,000, that are considering this. But you may know, or when you were invited, that almost 50% of our housing stock in our small town is rental. So it's an unusually very high number. So rental is and accommodating is a very important issue to us. So I will turn it over to you, Joanna, and are you a person that likes to have questions as you go, or do you want us to wait till you're finished?
Perhaps at the end. I think that will probably be the best, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Fabulous. I'll share my screen in a moment, but thank you for that introduction. As mentioned, my name is Joanna Manganiello. I'm the manager of rental compliance here at the City of Hamilton. I've had the joy of being in this role for the last 6-7 months now. So I wasn't here for the whole development and the background associated with the development of the bylaw, but working through it the team is learning and figuring out and growing as we go, but I am very happy to be part of this team. My team and I are responsible for what you'll notice now as the Hamilton Apartment Rental Program, and that program oversees both the renovation license and relocation bylaw and the Safe Apartments building bylaw that takes effect next January. So I will speak to both of those bylaws at a very high level, and then at the end, happy to answer any questions that you have of me. So let me figure out how to share. It's always different on different platforms. So oh, there it is. It's right in the middle of my screen. Sorry.
Oh, no reason.
trying to get into presentation mode. I believe on your side, you're seeing it in a presentation mode. So just some background, how we got here today. So the City of Hamilton started on this journey back in, I believe it was late 2022 and early 2023. And it was then where our council directed staff in our housing division to investigate the issue of renovictions because of the increase in housing related challenges that were being seen across Hamilton and of course across neighboring communities as well. It wasn't until April of 2023 at the Emergency and Community Services Committee that our division, the Licensing and Bylaw Services Division, was directed to develop a suite of bylaws to halt renovictions. Sorry. At that meeting, there was a motion by our council that we report back in August of 2023 with more information. And then it was there at August 2023 where the Licensing and Bylaw Services Division presented the Hamilton Apartment Rental Program, or HARP, as we commonly refer to it as, which included some minor changes to other bylaws, but the main change here was the creation of two brand new bylaws, one being the renovation license and relocation bylaw, which came into effect this past January 1st, 2025. And we have the Safe Apartment Buildings bylaw, which comes into effect January 1st, 2026. Both bylaws were approved in February of 2024 through our 2024 budget process. Our council approved a phased-in implementation of both bylaws and 28 staff to support both programs. So that phase-in took place over a 3-year period, so 24, 25, and 26. Council approved 3 FTEs for our renovation bylaw and 25 for the safe apartment buildings bylaw. So that's a little bit on the history there. To look at the overview of the renovation license and relocation bylaw, of course, essentially the RTA still is and will always be the main guiding document. But the purpose of the bylaw really is to complement the RTA. And to date, I'm happy to say that it has not been challenged. So we feel at the time when the bylaw was being developed, the legal expertise that we had working on the team to develop it, they felt confident that the way it was written, that it was within the municipality's scope of what we were implementing in the bylaw. The focus on our bylaw is to ensure that landlords are following what is stated in the RTA when issuing N13 eviction notices. The bylaw's objective really is to track all N13 notices and to ensure that landlords are essentially acting in good faith, which is all within the scope of the municipality. So our bylaw applies to all rental units in the city. There are some exemptions, of course, that are noted in our bylaw, but however, it doesn't matter the size of the building or number of units in the building, as long as it's a rental unit, our bylaw applies. Our bylaw requires the landlord to obtain a license when an N13 eviction notice is issued to a tenant. The purpose of this is to ensure that tenants are being asked to leave their unit so that the landlord can complete substantial renovations to the unit. You know, we don't want to see a landlord evicting a tenant just to replace a toilet or replace kitchen cabinets. It has to be substantial enough where they need that vacant status. To confirm that the vacant to confirm that the vacant status in the unit is required, we're asking for a report signed by a qualified professional, and that's usually an engineer or an architect, whoever would sign off on the drawings for a building permit. Essentially, is what we follow, and they would state that renovations are so substantial that vacant possession is required. In our bylaws, when council approved this, they also approved a tenant support program, and this program has prepared a tenant rights and entitlements package, and this package must be by the landlord to the tenant when they're issuing an N13. And this package essentially clearly outlines the tenant's rights and responsibilities during the whole eviction process. With the application, a landlord must submit copies of all N13s, proof of building permit, that note, as I said, from the qualified professional, signed attestation for any tenants who are exercising their right of first refusal, and of course, paying a fee. And our fee is currently set at $715 per license. So I want to make that clear. That's per license. It's not per unit. Um, and that was done intentionally at the time, but it was done at per license. So if their building permit includes work for, let's say, 2 units, it'll be $715 for both units. We do have guidelines in our bylaw that speaks to the number of days once an N13 is issued that an application must be submitted to the city. And the bylaw speaks to an exemption process. If the renovation is not completed within a year, the applicant must apply for renewal and submit updated documentation to support the extension, and of course, continue the arrangements with the tenant. And moving on to enforcement, our officers are currently conducting proactive enforcement, whereby they review any publicly posted building permit data, review real estate sales, rental listings, whatever they can get their hands on, essentially. And they may visit sites where renovations may occur and where they feel N13s may be issued. They will engage with tenants, property owners, and distribute marketing material that we have prepared to educate about the program. And while they're on site, if they see any property standards issues or yard maintenance issues or any violations with any of our property bylaws, they will issue orders on anything that they see while on site. And in addition to proactive enforcement, our officers are responding to complaints received from tenants, general public, our tenant support program, or their partners. They'll complete investigations and issue orders as well in accordance with the bylaw. To date, so we've been, what are we now, 9 months into the bylaw. Proactive enforcement has resulted in the requirement of one license application to be submitted. So I know not as high of a number as we had hoped, but at least we know proactive enforcement is working. And then since January, we've had numerous inquiries and complaints, but only 4 license applications have we received since January 1st. We do have 1 active license currently issued. 1 that I just mentioned is underway. 1 has been canceled. The N13s were revoked by the LTB, so that application is no longer, because no renovations are no longer taking place. And 1 application was a social housing provider, which is exempt under our bylaw to submit a license. Of course, we have penalties and fines, which our bylaw speaks to. Our officers use progressive enforcement and will determine the level of enforcement required for each investigation, depending on the severity. They can range, of course, from a verbal warning to an issuance of an administrative penalty notice or even a court injunction. All depends on the severity. Our administrative penalties range about $400 for non-compliance with the bylaw, and our provincial fines range anywhere between $500 to $1,000. And non-compliance with the bylaw may result in fines ranging from $500 to $10,000 for an individual and $5,000 to $50,000 for a corporation. And that is noted right directly in our bylaw. So that's very high level on the renovation bylaw. I'll quickly go over the Safe Apartments building bylaw that we're currently underway in developing for January 1st start. The Safe Apartment Buildings program will aim to maintain existing building standards and improve substandard building conditions by requiring building owners to complete regular inspection and maintenance activities. Essentially, this program, the goal is to reduce the number of N13s that are being issued, resulting in tenants needing to vacate their unit. This bylaw will prevent units from being rented if they know there are deficiencies like loss of vital services, for example, or known pest or pest infestation within the unit. ensuring that tenants are better informed regarding pending major repairs to the property, and better equipping tenants with engagement supports. And also improving communication between the city, tenant, and property owners, which we have heard is an issue, is a concern of tenants where they're not hearing back from their landlords. So there is a way for us now to get involved in those. And our program does run similar to those run in the cities of Toronto and Mississauga. We actually have shadowed both of those municipalities and kind of trying now to develop best practices that will work for Hamilton starting January. The requirements of the safe apartments, they are pretty lengthy. So we're still in the process of finalizing everything, but every building owner must register their apartment building. This registration is completed annually. We do ask that if it is anyone other than the building owner completing the registration, so a property management firm, for example, that yeah, we do require a notice from the building owner to confirm the legitimacy of the registration from the person that is submitting on their behalf. Proof of insurance must be submitted to the city as part of the application. And our bylaw speaks to 6 plans that also must be submitted at the application. And those are written procedures. For example, a cleaning plan, electrical maintenance, state of good repair, integrated pest management, waste management, and vital services disruption. So those are just an example of the types of plans that we require in our as part of the application registration process. There's a registration fee which must be paid that we're obviously waiting for council to approve our 2026 user fee bylaw, but right now it's about $60 per unit. And we have our council approved an 87% fee recovery. So only 13% of the Safe Apartments building bylaw program really falls to the tax levy. Within our program, social housing providers are exempt. So social housing providers who receive subsidy from the City of Hamilton, they are exempt from paying the registration fee. However, they must register if they have any non-compliance with our bylaws. They're still subject to the fines and charges. It's just we're allowing them not to pay the registration fee as a cost-saving mechanism there. Once the building is registered, our team, which consists of municipal law enforcement officers, they'll visit the building to complete an evaluation of the building conditions. And it's the focus of the inspection will be the building's interior and exterior common areas. Staff will assess how well the building management is complying with the safe apartment buildings bylaw requirements for record keeping related to the plans, communicating with tenants via the tenant notification board, not renting out units with known deficiencies, etc. Staff will not, outside the scope of our bylaw, is evaluating interior units, like rented units, though that is outside the scope of our bylaw. Once we have evaluated the building, a copy of the building score must be posted on the tenant notification board, and those scores will also be made public online on our website. The building score impacts the timing of the next building evaluation. At the current time, scoring and subsequent evaluations is set at, for building scoring 85% or higher, they will be evaluated again 3 years from the date of their evaluation date. If you score between 51 and 84%, the next evaluation will be within 2 years. And we will also do some door knocking at rental units so that staff can provide information to tenants about the program and ask about their experience. And then if a building has a score of 50% or less, that will automatically trigger a fulsome audit 1 year from that date, which will include more tenant engagement activities as well on site. Oh, and that is it for the rest of my formal presentation here. Sorry, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll stop sharing so I can actually see. yes, happy to answer any questions that you have of me.
Thank you, Joanna. I'll just look around the room. I know I have one or two, but Carrie, you wanted to?
So thanks, Joanna. So I'm actually not part of the committee, but from a staff perspective, I'm really the Safe Apartments bylaw. Have you got much pushback from building owners about costs, like if they don't get a good evaluation about the cost it's going to take to do, to bring it up to par? Because that seems to be an issue, or has been an issue here in the past, is when inspections are done and it reveals that there's going to be a huge cost to the property owner. That sometimes that could get political in nature. I'm just wondering how you guys have handled that.
So our council, when they approved the bylaw, they did request, sorry, the word wasn't coming to me, that we do public engagement, and that public engagement include tenants, landlord, property owners, property management firms, all anyone who has experience with apartment buildings. So we're in the middle of doing that right now. So far, like actually we met with a group earlier this week, actually, and their concern was that the registration fees, they only spoke to the registration fees, and if the city has had viewed the possibility that the registration fees will result in above guideline rent increases. So we are looking, like I said, I wasn't involved in the past and how the bylaw, all that conversation, but we are going to be exploring. I will be going back to see what conversations may have been had at the time, and what the plan around that was. But I am hearing from specifically social housing providers that any charges or anything that they may have to do, a lot of them feel that their buildings are meeting the minimum standard, but they are worried that some of the fees or charges may add an additional burden to their cash flow, especially for those social housing where they have a limited cash flow already, and this is just going to further restrict the funds they have available to make improvements in their buildings. But I haven't heard from, I'll call them the for-profit apartment building owners. We haven't heard any concerns yet from those groups, simply because we haven't engaged with them. That is being planned for October, November, I believe. That is part of our plan to engage with that sector.
Okay, thank you. I guess as it evolves next year, it'll probably, that's when it actually is enacted, that you'll probably start having to deal with some of those issues. But no, I like the idea of getting people engaged before.
Sorry, I think I actually missed it. Sorry, when I was going through the program requirements slide. But part of the reason that council wanted more of the public engagement as well is our bylaw didn't outline what the evaluation scoring, how the whole building evaluation would look like, and how we would score each building and the weighting for each particular item. So that was part of the reason as well, was to get public feedback on the whole evaluation and scoring tool that we're going to be developing. But in part of that, of course, is to hear their view. And the bylaw is brand new, so down the road, if we do see that there is reason to modify or make amendments to the bylaw, of course we will happily do so. We're in a position where we can't do that right now, but we will listen to any feedback we get for future improvements to the bylaw.
Thank you. Katie has a question.
Sure. The whole program looks fantastic. How many people are involved in the whole thing? How many people are working?
So currently we're a small and mighty team where it's myself. I do have one supervisor of operations and enforcement. I have one officer right now dedicated to doing a lot of that proactive work. And we do have a senior project manager who's really she's just been incredible with all the planning and development for getting the bylaw up and running for January. But I am currently in the process of starting to complete my hiring, which we should be fully staffed up to, I would say about Q1 of next year, I should be fully staffed. So there are a total of 28 full-time equivalents that have been approved. Not all of them will report into my section. A couple of them are administrative resources, like hiring a solicitor to support us, a screening officer for the administrative penalties, bylaw clerks, what have you, other support staff to help us administer the program as well. I believe reporting to me, I want to say it's about a team of 18 for the rental compliance team itself, which would be myself, 2 supervisors, officers, and an engagement specialist as well.
Okay, thank you. Good luck. That sounds great.
Thank you. We're pretty excited. We know it's a lot of work, but we are excited.
I have a question about how you determine the staffing. It would be so, let's say X number of rental units and 1 per 1,000, or do you have a sense of how that?
Wish I had that answer. I don't. I imagine it being based on a number of complaints on what we. So it's the similar work, I don't want to say, as our municipal law enforcement officers on other property standards and yard maintenance issues. So I think the number of officers required was based on some sort of calculation on the number of complaints per officer that can be managed. That's how I imagine. We have about just under 900 buildings that the Safe Apartment Buildings bylaw will include, and that's about 52,000 units that translates to. So it's over 52,000 units, over 13 officers. So each officer will have a good amount of buildings and units that they will be responsible to oversee.
And
I don't have that calculation, but if you ever get down this road, I'm happy to share that. I can find that and share
that's
that.
fine. And you mentioned the Safe Apartment Building bylaw. One of the key goals of that was if landlords are keeping their places up on a regular basis, they're less likely to need to do that full renovation process. That's one of the goals.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Katie.
Just one more. I was just wondering if you were talking about the $715. So if a fourplex wanted to do all 4, it would be only $715 for the 4-unit building.
If it's one building permit if it's one building permit for the 4 units, then yes. If the building permit is for 1 unit, so it's by building permit how many permits were covered under. Sorry, how many units were part of that building permit is how many license they would need to obtain.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So you're going to be having eyes on a lot more doors and apartments than you've ever had before, and it won't shock you to run into hoarding and you've got those networks of pulling in public health or other partners as needed.
Correct.
It's not always about what you're going to discover,
Yes.
It won't shock you, but it might,
Yes. Yeah.
It won't be the primary reason you went there, but you're going to find fire and safety.
Yes. And we already have, like, through our municipal law enforcement team already, we do have processes in place where if we see something on site and we need our police force there, we have a process. If we need our fire department, we have a process in place. Or public health, we already have those procedures in place where we feel that we need other supports on site.
Do you have any advice for a small town like ours that is just kicking this around at this point?
The Safe Apartments, I did not know the percentage of rental units in the town of Smith Falls, so I think your numbers is quite surprising for me. So the Safe Apartments bylaw, if you have a lot of tall, high-rise apartment buildings. So our bylaws, I believe I mentioned, was 2 stories or more and 6 units or more is when the safe apartments building bylaw takes in effect. So if your municipality has a good percentage of buildings that would qualify, I personally think the safe apartment buildings bylaw is one that um, is going to improve the housing stock across municipalities because it's more proactive versus reactive. I know in unit it'll be more reactive because if a landlord is not responding to a water leak and now mold has developed in the unit, you know, our bylaw is not gonna, it will improve those because we do have timing limits set within the bylaw that a landlord needs to respond to a tenant service request, but it's more for the full, the structure of the building. And, if electrical and plumbing overall in the building is good or the structure itself is sound, the likelihood of a property owner having to shut down the building to do a full renovation and evicting those tenants is going to be reduced over time. City of Hamilton has, I forget what the percentage is, it's quite high of a number where a lot of our buildings are built 1960s, I believe, and older. So we have a lot of old or aging rental stock, and this bylaw in particular is going to help keep that rental stock healthy and viable so people can continue to rent and in a healthy and safe manner as well. The renovation and relocation bylaw, that one we're finding a little bit more challenging. We're doing our best in looking at reports, like I said, on building permits that our building department has issued, or um, whatever we hear from our partners, or looking at, if we're lucky to catch a real estate listing that, a multiplex building recently being sold, we might go to those buildings, but that one is more difficult. We haven't seen it yet necessarily, but because of the costs associated with getting the license, relocating the tenants, or providing them with compensation, um, it's a lot for the landlord. So we're hoping that there's not going to still find a way to circumvent our bylaw and do a cash for keys deal, for example. This one is more difficult to monitor, to enforce, simply because municipalities don't receive those N13 notices from the province, right? We have to request them through FOI requests. If so, it's really we need to know about it in order to enforce our bylaw. So that one is very challenging. So I know I didn't necessarily answer your question,
No,
but
that's fine.
if you can navigate a way to find how to really get in there and learn where there might be N13s being issued, where the license may come into play, that'll be the key in the success, I think, of that program in your municipality.
Okay, thank you. Linda.
Yes, I'd like to ask, how are you doing it for the Disability Act? If you've got a landlord that doesn't have his building up to code for a disability, a wheelchair, or how do you handle that?
I believe, I know that is part of our property standards bylaws, where they must have like the hands-free, like the automatic doors or ramps. I believe there are already items within our bylaw, in our property standards bylaw, I believe, where it does speak to those. So if they're not on the site, I believe those are something we can charge the landlord for. I'll have to look into that and confirm, but I believe these are things that are already part of our bylaws.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We really appreciate this, Joanna, as we keep going down this road, and we're not sure where it will lead yet. We're a subcommittee of council, so this is one of a few things we're looking at doing. And it would probably come up next year at the committee. You know, it might come to council, it might not. But
Well, good luck.
yeah, thank you so much and good luck with your relatively new posting.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, bye-bye. Moving on, that was very interesting. I was interested in that safe apartment building bylaw more than the renovation one. Just seems more practical. 7.1 is renovation bylaws as Panko. I don't know. I think that's.
Leave that one.
We were supposed to bring something forward to this meeting, but I think with vacations and everything else that happened, it didn't happen. So the last meeting, the action was that you, Mayor Panko,
That's right.
myself, and were you in that group, Ellie?
Sure, I can be.
There was somebody else, and
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
Tranter.
No, I hear you.
So that hasn't happened, so there is no real
Okay.
update at this point.
And then the work groups, the twinning, did that group have a chance to?
So the quick
Set
update
it
on
up.
the two working groups, the twinning group. So there's the group here, that the group that we picked from our group. So on the twinning group, we have Linda, Katie, Mitra, and Ellie. We also have Paul Burley and Mark Payne, who was involved with the Smith Falls Welcome to the Ukraine group initially. So we've made a meeting, or we've set a meeting to meet with the mayor, with the city that we've twinned with in the Ukraine, and that's going to take place September 17th, and it's going to be in the ECDEV boardroom. So all this group will be, if they can attend it, will be attending that meeting.
Where's that boardroom?
It's in the other building that's attached to the town hall,
Oh, yes, okay.
but you still come in the main doors, Katie, and
Go through.
yeah.
Okay.
And then the second group, the food insecurity group, we have Diana, Linda, Janet, Katie, and Lewis. And we've also added some outside agencies. We have Natalia, who Katie and Ellie would remember, did a presentation to council. She's from the food bank. We have Ashley Saunders and Derek from the Food Hub, Dana Douglas from the Southeast Health Unit, Michelle Bellows from Rideau Community Health Services, Erin Lee Marcotte from Family Children's Services, Christopher Hanna, who's the principal at DJ Schooler School, and we also have Major Chad Ingram from the Salvation Army. So right now I have a survey out to try to nail down a date for that meeting, and we're looking at various days the week of September 22nd. So that one still hasn't been set yet, hoping to do so before the end of this week.
Okay, thank you for those updates. And then number 3, Carrie, you're going to talk about some training.
Yeah, just a heads up that we have some new training coming out to meet the accessibilities legislation, the AODA legislation. So it's going to be, I'll be sending all of you a link. It's through Access On, which is a Service Ontario link. Staff have all had to do it, and committees as their volunteers within the municipality also have to take it. So I'll be sending that link out with a deadline for that to be complete. I did it, and it didn't take very long, 20 minutes to half an hour to do, and then you get a certificate that has to be submitted. And I'll give you all of that with the date to be completed. That will be sent back to me, and it'll just be put on file because we have to, when we do our annual compliance report, we have to send that in with it. So just keep an eye out for that email for training.
Has council done that?
No, you will though.
I know I will. I look forward to it. So if anybody has any questions about that, you're going to send the link and then
Yeah.
find, what, an hour?
To do that,
Yeah.
30 minutes.
30
Yeah,
minutes.
20 to 30 minutes.
I'm sure we'll all find it interesting and informative.
It actually, I did it, and I've done numerous AODO trainings, and I did find it helpful.
Great. Any correspondence? No in camera. Our next meeting is October the 9th. Most of what we've just talked about will be on the agenda again. And if we're lucky and get those meetings together, they'll be providing an update. So a motion to adjourn unless there's nothing else. Moved by Katie and seconded by Linda. The meeting stands so adjourned at 9:40 and stands so adjourned. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Louis, we got you out of here.